And I can see attendees dropping in now. So we will get started with this webinar. Welcome to this MobilityXlab webinar, where you will get an exclusive insight of the collaboration case from MobilityXlab with the startup Univrses and Volvo Group. Because we all know how fast change is going today, and also that the automotive and transportation industry is facing major challenges, but also opportunities. Autonomous drive, higher demands on safety, sustainability, digitalization has created a new play field. And add to that an explosion of new software, harsh competition, and shorter time to market. So to be ahead has never been as important as it is today. And at the same time, challenges are more complex than ever. So to stay ahead of competition, you need a new way of working, a faster way of working, and also a way where you can work closer in collaboration with the others. My name is Katarina Brud, and I will guide you through the next 30 minutes together with our guest today. And I'm heading up MobilityXlab, and MobilityXlab is a collaboration platform that's the interface between startups and industry players who are looking to collaborate to accelerate the future of mobility. This webinar will be recorded. If you have any questions, we welcome questions. Please submit them in the chat here, and I will moderate them as we go, or we'll also have a Q&A session in the end. And when you exit this webinar, there will be a short poll. I think it's only one question. So please fill that in as well so we can get your feedback on this. So we have guests with us today. So at this webinar, I'm joined by Jonathan Selbie, CEO at Univrses. Jonathan has a background from aerospace, medical innovation, and also from Formula One. He's now on the quest to lead autonomous revolution through making a machine understand the world around us. So Jonathan, thank you for joining us today. So could you please give us some more insight about what Univrses does?
Sure. Look, it's lovely to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me to this webinar. Univrses is a company based in Stockholm. There's about 30 of us, and we are experts in perception. Broadly describe it as perception. So we process data from sensors on board typically moving platforms like cars or other robots to give these moving platforms or vehicles perception capability. And broadly what that means, it allows these vehicles to understand where they are in space, where they are relative to their surroundings. It also allows them to understand the 3D structure of their surroundings. And this means that in understanding that 3D structure, they can then decide what to do next in a better way. But crucially, the third element is understanding the semantic nature of that 3D structure. So in the case of an autonomous car, as it drives down the road and it sees a lump of something on the right, is that lump a park bench, in which case it's probably going to stay still and the car doesn't need to worry about it? Or is it a dog and it might run out in front of the car and the car needs to respond accordingly? So that third layer of semantic understanding using deep learning is another core capability of Univrses. So we process data typically from cameras to give autonomous vehicles perception capability.
Great, thank you so much. And we're also joined by Milen Kourtev from Volvo Group. Milen is passionate about entrepreneurship and innovation and has an extensive background in the field and is today with Volvo Group. In addition to this, he's also engaged in this area as a jury member of Venture Cup and also with the European Commission. So Milen, thank you for joining us today as well. Could you please share what you do as a senior innovation manager at Volvo Group?
Of course, Katarina. Thank you for inviting me. So at the Volvo Group, we have a unit called Volvo Group Connected Solutions, where I am, and in there we have the Innovation Lab, where I am. So at the Volvo Group Innovation Lab, what does a senior innovation manager do? Well, we identify new opportunities in the area of connectivity and telematics, plan, execute activities in that area, and also try to find the means in how we find those solutions. So working with startups is actually one of the preferred ways of working that we have here, because we are in an area where a lot of new things happen. an area which is rather new for us in many senses, and we understood that we don't have maybe, well, the easiest way to solve those things is to approach all the vast resources available out there. So we have an emphasis on software development, data management, analytics, and business creation for the connected area, especially.
Great, interesting. So if we dig deeper into this collaboration case, which is done together with Univrses, Milen, could you give us an overview of what that collaboration was all about?
Yes, so I can give you some background in how we started and what we do today. So at the Connected Solutions Innovation Lab, we have a way of working where we identify some user challenges that we have in Volvo Group. So we work towards all of Volvo Group, all the different brands. And then we solve them by involving external companies to leverage on their competences and talents. So this is part of our open innovation framework, as we call it. One of the methods that we use to approach those external resources is to run hackathons. And we had such a hackathon in the end of 2018, where we brought up a very important user problem challenge that we had in Volvo Group in a specific area. And we found, of course, we got a lot of different interesting solutions, but we selected especially one which was very unique in that area, very new. And then we needed to find also a startup with the right skills to provide a solution, to work around the solution. So that is kind of the background in how we started this activity. Via MobilityXlab, what MobilityXlab did was actually to help us with the matchmaking, to find the right startup, which was then the Univrses in this case, who had the skills of photogrammetry and everything around their image analytics to support us in this journey. So that is how we came in touch with Univrses and started this collaboration. So what we do is to develop a cell phone app utilizing the camera of the cell phone to really automatically measure what the wear is on our machines, in the Volvo machines that we have, very easily, very quickly, and in an automatic way. And that is something which is truly new and interesting, I would say.
Great. Jonathan, do you have anything to add on this how this collaboration case came about?
Well, only that, just to say, it was, as Milen mentioned, facilitated by MobilityXlab. One of the great challenges we have as startups is that we have aspirations to work with fantastic companies like Volvo, but even though we have those aspirations, I don't know who to pick up the phone to. I don't know who to email. And so actually being part of MobilityXlab meant that suddenly when I turned up to the event, not only were the right people in the room, I actually had a meeting organized for me to meet these people. And so suddenly the connection was made for me, and that made the collaboration that much more simple, at least kicking off the collaboration that much more simple. So it was really fantastic.
Right. Thank you. So I'm thinking about, you are a startup, Jonathan, representing a startup here. Why do you even want to work with a large corporation that might not have the reputation to be fast and quick and perhaps easy to work with?
So I guess there were three reasons I was particularly thinking about. I mean, the first is the tech we're developing. We want to see it go far and wide, and we want to see it be used in as many different applications as possible. And working with a large corporate means that we can take that tech and deploy it into a particular end user application, and that can be scaled using the reach of that large corporate. So that was a really compelling reason. It was also, by the way, a new way to deploy our technology. I mentioned in the introduction that Univrses processes data from cameras to give those vehicles an idea of the 3D geometry, the 3D structure around them. And it's the same application, but instead of having a vehicle moving through space, you have a smartphone being moved around by the hand, and the same type of software is processing the images to give the 3D structure of the environment. Instead of being the road network, it's the components that underneath the Volvo product that we're assessing. So this was a new way which we could deploy our technology into a new application, which was also very compelling. The other reason is also because I think it's always interesting for a young company like Univrses to work in close collaboration with a more mature company like Volvo to learn how you do innovation, how you manage the fact that you have a huge, great number of people working across different geographies, and how you still maintain consistent, coherent operations. And that's something at the moment we can fit all the people into one room, but hopefully in the future we will grow, and we need to learn how to do that. So that's a great opportunity for us to learn. And then the final reason is also just to work with a large corporate because of the brand association, if I can put it that way. As a young company, we are largely unknown, sometimes very completely unknown when we approach new customers, and having the opportunity to say that we've worked with some fantastic companies in the past, like Volvo, is a great calling card for us to be able to say we have the credibility and the technical know-how to work with them, therefore we can work with you.
And Milen, if I turn to you then, you as a large corporation and being part of that, why do you want to work with startups? Why is that important?
Well, working with startups is important of many reasons, and a lot of companies, they see the importance of this. I would say that in our case, in Connected Solutions Innovation Lab, we have gone a bit further. So we have been discussing this, but now we have actually started to do this actively. And it is one of the maybe most preferred ways of solving things. We have it as a strategic point. We want to involve startups in our projects that we have. So we actively look for it. And to make that happen, we have also adapted our tools. We have a framework to do that. And of course, we continue to update those as we learn. But those tools kind of simplify the onboarding process for the startups. They simplify how we work with each other. We have simplified things like NDA and so on, just to be the bridge between the big corporate company and the small companies. But why do we want to focus on startups? Well, we are working with innovations. We are working with creating new businesses which do not exist in Volvo Group today. Creating something new, which is truly new, means that you need to both gain new insights, maybe, but especially that you need to think and do things differently than you did before. In a large corporate company, you have a lot of history, you have a lot of culture, and if you try to solve things yourself on the given the culture you have, and so on, probably the solution will look quite similar to the solutions you have already, or to the solutions that your competitor is providing. What if you could instead involve other insights, involve startups which see things differently? Not only do you extend your know-how, to so much more because you don't have all this know-how in-house, but you also get all those new insights, and then you can come up with truly new solutions, which we have done in this specific case, working with Univrses. But yeah, I think we have understood the importance of doing the open innovation to solve important customer challenges, and important customer or user challenges. That's something we know in Volvo Group. We know our customers, but finding the means to solve them in efficient ways, that is where we are now reaching out to the startups. And we have seen a lot of agility and all that also coming from startups. I think the Innovation Lab, not only do we have it in our strategy, but we're also seated at Lindholmen Science Park, where we have it's like a hub for startups, and MobilityXlab is 60 meters away from us, I think. So providing us also access to this ecosystem, which simplifies all of the work in reaching out to the startups for us.
Yeah. Thank you. I soon want to get deeper into kind of the challenges and the good things about collaborating and when it works, but I got a question here in the audience. If maybe Jonathan, if you could elaborate on the collaboration case briefly, just give an overview again of what you did together with Volvo Group.
Okay. So I think the challenge was around a particular product line that Volvo had. They needed to assess how that particular product was performing in the field, they were relying on the users to give some feedback about that performance of the product in the field, which was inconsistent and not objective. And so they wanted a way to get a more objective metric so that they could respond to how that product was performing. And so the idea was to use computer vision. So this is Univrses' core competence. And so by using something as readily available as a smartphone, you don't need any special hardware. So the idea was now that instead of the user going out and doing some kind of subjective assessment of how the product was performing, they took a smartphone, they ran Univrses software, and then were simply able to wave the phone in front of the Volvo product. And by waving it in a sort of general sense, they would collect a video of the product, and then Univrses could process that video to derive metrically how the product was performing. So Milen mentioned it was particularly the wear. So there was a particular component within the product that they were looking to see how it was wearing down so that they knew when to replace it. And up until that point, it had been a kind of, yeah, it looks about ready for replacement. And often that was wrong and inconsistent. And now using this tool, you get a much more consistent, objective metric, which means the response can be that much more tailored and more appropriate.
Thank you for clarifying the collaboration case again. So it all sounds great, and I think a lot of people understand why we should collaborate. But let's face it, it's not that easy, and we hear a lot about the challenges of collaboration. So what would you say has been, in this context or other contexts, the challenges of collaboration, either with a large corporate, Jonathan, for you, and then Milen, to hear you, what's the challenge collaborating with startups as well? But if we start with you, Jonathan, what would you say is kind of the main challenges collaborating with another beast, so to say?
I think actually we find this quite often when we talk to clients or potential clients. It's all around expectation and managing that expectation so that what is potentially possible with our technology is what people expect to be delivered with our technology. In fact, when Volvo Univrses actually came on board to the project that Milen talked about slightly late, the project had already kicked off, and it was there already some ideas and some expectations had been built up about what could be delivered by when. And so one of the first things we had to do joining the team was deliver the bad news that we weren't going to be able to produce what they'd hoped we were going to be able to produce by the certain time they needed it. But one of the great things about this collaboration was actually the team that had been put in place to deliver this was able to respond, listen to what we said, understood what we said, and then was able to adapt and shift and change the focus of the team so that they were still able to achieve the objectives that they really needed to by the certain date, but then shift some of the other deliverables that they'd hoped to achieve to a slightly later date to give us the chance to catch up. So that was one of the huge positives. But that really, in a nutshell, is the challenge that we find, is trying to, terms like computer vision and indeed AI are so broadly used in such a generic way now that actually a lot of expectation can be built up around what is possible. And it's really important to be totally clear and totally honest, I think, about what can be achieved and what can't be achieved. Because in the end, no one wins if you're not that way, because it will be found out. So that's one of the things I would really recommend, just be totally frank and forthright about what can be achieved and what can't be achieved.
And I think that's very interesting you mentioning that, because that's a lot what we hear as being MobilityXlab from both the industry partners we have and the startup, is to align expectation is a main challenge. And even it sounds so easy to do that, but it's a challenge that is very, you need to have that in place to make things run smoother. So Milen, if you can share from your side and being the corporate, what would you say is a challenge to work with startups?
Sure, I would just focus a little bit on the expectation part again, since it's a very interesting topic. I would then add to that from a corporate standpoint, a startup cannot be handled as a supplier. I have seen that happening, not in Volvo Group perhaps, but in other companies where they they say that they want to collaborate with startups and then handle them as a supplier. Working with a startup, you need to aim for a win-win situation. You need to have a lot of empathy, humility, and so on between each other. And identify what's in it for a startup as well as for the big company, the corporate company, and have to proceed together. It's very easy to say that we want those things. We put out requirements. We want it by and not more expensive than this and that amount. I think that is something that we need to work around, because what we do in those cases, working with a startup, is that we start a journey of exploration together. We try to innovate together. Innovation is already an exploration activity, and now we want to do that with somebody else because we have some kind of skill, some kind of know-how, which is usually the different markets that we are in, what are the user needs and so on. And the startups, they have needs which match this, and they can provide some kind of solutions perhaps. But of course, it's an exploration. We don't know if there will be a match at the end, but how do we do the best out of it? And having some kind of way of working which is matching the speed of and agility of the startup, but at the same time takes care of corporate interests. I think that is very important.
How do you manage that? Because you talk about startup, corporates working together. It's balancing the speed of the cheetah, the punch of the elephant, and there's two different time clocks as well, right? One year in a corporate term, it's a very short time. 1 year in a startup term, that's an eternity, right? So how do you balance or manage that, Milen, to hear you?
Well, go away from being over confidential and instead base the work on trust, be transparent. We need to really open up the know-how we have about our market, which is relevant for the startup. Something we have seen that sometimes we kind of involve subject matter experts from our group, for example, on the fly, but that might take time because a startup like Univrses, they need to have response now. If they need to have if they're working on a solution and they need to have inputs about our market or specific user cases, they need to have that input because they're working quickly on this. So we need to make sure that all the data they need or all the knowledge they need is available somehow quickly. Otherwise, of course, as the innovation lab, maybe we try to be quick. At the same time, we are working against Volvo Group, and we need to get information from there as well. So we need to change that interface so that we have everything available. So at the start of such a activity, really have a trust, openness, discuss with Univrses in this case about what are we going to do, how are we going to do it, what are our expectations, what do we need to have in place to make that work, what kind of know-how, for example, what kind of subject matter experts should be involved. That's one thing. And also from our side, we need to have experts who understand the technology or the field of the startup. Because as Jonathan mentioned, artificial intelligence and image recognition and so on, it's a broad field. When they talk with us, we need to understand what they are saying. So having a subject matter expert at our place who understands their language is also a big value. I would say that a pitfall would be that we don't have those translators, and then we don't understand each other, our languages. One additional learning I had from this cooperation is maybe to have, it's difficult during these times, but to have a representative, for example, from Volvo Group, sharing the office space with the Univrses now and then. That I think would have added a lot of extra value, because we do this collaboration because we know different things, but we have some common interests. So we can learn from each other better if we have a representative sitting here and there sharing the skills. We also get some more agility and speed, having a representative being able to respond immediately. So I think that is also a pitfall that should be avoided. Don't have clear borders, try to merge yourself as much as possible.
So before we let the audience in for some questions, I want to hear this perspective. We talked about the challenges avoiding the pitfalls, but we view this as a successful collaboration case. What has made it successful? What are the factors? I want to first hear from you, Jonathan. What do you say is, well, why has this worked so well?
I think why has it worked so well? I think that there's been some really positive we learned during the way, but there's been really good communication towards the end of it, and I think that's really been facilitated by Milen, actually, as the project leader. He's really made it so that there's a really open, clear, transparent environment in the team, so that when things go wrong, there's no fear about being able to say it, and when things go well, we all sort of celebrate together. So I think that's been definitely one of the keys to success, actually. This is an innovation project. It means that there will be problems, failures, issues, and being able to be frank and forthright about that is super important.
Great. So Milen, if you want to, why do you think this has been successful from your perspective?
Well, I would say, first of all, I would also give some credits to Jonathan in all of this, because he has been very clear in stating what Univrses can do, can't do, what their expectations are, and what they want to have out of this, and so on. And I think that is an important aspect, that startup is very open with those things. Otherwise, a startup might fall into a mentality where they try to live up to the corporate company as much as possible, because this is an opportunity for them, and maybe overpromise some things. But it's very important that you never go away from facts and clarity, that everything is clear, and that is something which Jonathan has done very well. I believe that we had quite good trust and clarity and openness in this project, partly because of maybe the way of working that we have here in Innovation Lab, where we are open to startups, but also in the team that we manage this quite well. We have done a good work both from Univrses and from Volvo's side. I would say that just to make, in general terms, to create a successful collaboration, because the topic of collaborating between corporates and startups is so important. A lot of people talk about it. How do you make that happen? Except having it in your strategies, having the right tools, the people are extremely important. And from a corporate company, I believe that they need to have people who know the startup area, who are familiar with startup, how it is to run a startup, how the life looks like if you're in a startup. So having an entrepreneur or something like that is of much value to interface towards the startups. That is something we have tried to do in the Innovation Lab as well with the people we have here with the innovation managers. But for other companies, that is a recommendation I would give, because today they might take somebody who has worked with innovation, maybe more on an academic scale, or somebody who has worked with development, maybe new development, but still development. That is probably not the right person just to, put in a place to communicate with startups. There might be better choices. Somebody who has both been involved in innovation at the corporate company, but also with startups. That is extremely important, having the right people.
Right. And before we wrap this up, I want to give, we have a question from the audience. And that's, where are you with this collaboration and what's next? Who wants to grab that one? Jonathan.
Well, my understanding is that there are field trials going on with what we've done in the collaboration, and I haven't heard a completely up-to-date report on how it's going, but from a little while ago, before things happened in the world, my understanding it was going pretty well. Our hope is that actually this becomes a tool that is used by Volvo's customers across its product range. I think it's got huge potential to disrupt and change the way Volvo's customers interact with their products, and hopefully add a great deal of value.
Great. Milen, do you want to add?
Yeah, sure. So the tool, I feel that I have been very confidential about what it is, but it's actually an app that you can just, as Jonathan mentioned, film different machine parts with, and it will give you information about the wear pattern, how much wear there is, and so on. Why is this important? Today you do it manually. There are no recommendations on how to do it. Different people do it differently, depending on your age, maybe, and so on. You get different readings. Leads to a lot of conflict if you sell, because we do heavy machinery. If you sell a machinery, the seller says that it has 70% of the lifetime left, while the buyer says that it only has 30. Who has the right? So we need to have fact-based numbers on that. But for Volvo, it also means that we can sell spare parts better. We also have this information connected, so we share this information to our dealers, to ourselves, between the customers, and that leads to a lot of new businesses and services that we can create. So this is a huge opportunity for us. It is a very cool technology that we're developing, and we can explain more about it. People can reach out to us if they want to. But for today is that we have, during this process, we have a way an agile way to run projects where we involve startups, where we develop things, but we also do user cases, pilots with users at different stages, depending on how mature the technology is. And now we were going for the last and biggest pilot case, and then Corona hit us, COVID-19. So of course we couldn't go out to the field and interact with people. So we are now planning, we will do that and then continue with this use case, which will be our final one. But the app itself is developed, and we're now waiting to try it out in the field on a larger scale than we have done so far.
Thank you. And unfortunately, time is running up, so we will wrap this up. And for you attending, please do the poll in the end of this webinar. And I want to sum up what we've been talking about. We say for a collaboration to work successfully, people are important. Communication, work as a team, manage expectation, clarity, trust, and openness is what I've heard from this session. Thank you so much, Jonathan and Milen, for sharing this. It was a pleasure having you. Because we don't know what the future will look like, but I believe that the future belongs to companies who will re-evaluate their business and collaborate and create partnerships in new ways. And I think you're ahead of this right now. Thank you so much for everyone joining, and please stay in touch and do the poll in the end. Thank you, guys.